We are going to be talking about parenting, and it's very beautiful that as parents we should be able to learn from each other, we should be able to talk to each other. And I would always contribute my $1 million. I will not say 50 cents, $1 million to parenting, and from my experience. I'm so glad that even before getting married, I'd already gotten a shot to parenting. So I would like to say that we would like to start with the ideology of parenting. This is episode 1, so we'd like to make some establish some facts. I would like to start from the ideology of parenting. Parenting is not the idea of bringing a child to this life, or fathering or mothering a child. Yes, we understand that is part of it. For you to be called a parent, it means that you gave birth to that child. And giving birth to children, of course, shouldn't be something that happened by proxy. It should be something that you did deliberately. And even if maybe your child came as a result of maybe you're not planned, your decision to keep that baby means that you already know what you're going into. The reason why we call it P-A-Y, then renting. Most of us think that parenting is just about paying bills. We just want to pay bills, we want to meet targets. Our children are going back to school. We have to make sure that we get enough funds for them piled up for them to go back to school. We have to get their math sets, we have to get their books. We have to put them into an art class, we have to put them into sports class. And that's not just about that, it's bigger than that. And that's what we're here to talk about. So pay. And I broke it down, I said renting. The concept for that is that maybe from my name is Funsho, Oluwa Funsho. Those of you that are Yoruba, you understand that it means that my parents are saying that they are not my parents. That's not all to it, that they are just guardians. It means that I'm on rent to them, so they have to give reports to the landlord. That's the true owner of the child now. All of those kind of concepts. So if you look at them, there are two conflicting. You just feel that you have to be the ones to pay for everything. That's pay. Then renting. How do you begin to understand that this child is not only yours? How do you begin to understand that this child must be rented out? Is rented out already from heaven, and you have to subject that child to other forms of training, external factors, and that's what we're here to discuss throughout the entire series. This series, we have 8 episodes. That means it's going to run from June to July. By June to July, we are done with season 1. We'll take a little break, then we'll come back. Please, if you want to make any contributions, join us. We're still going to be posting the highlights on all our social media, so you can ask your questions and come to my DM and we'll talk about it. Today, I want to, I will always focus from the perspective of what I do or who I am, but the lessons learned can apply to every other aspect. I'm talking about parenting the creative child. I'm talking about how do you identify that your child is unique? How do you identify that this child has a gift? How do I understand that this child has a hidden talent? It is the primary job of the parents to scrutinize the child. You should do it with all love and diligence. Sometimes because of the poison, because of the fear in our heart, we do this looking for faults. Sometimes you're observing a child just because you're looking for faults. Your mind is already, because of your fear, your mind is already like, maybe this child is dull, maybe this child is not fast, maybe this child is lazy. So you begin to carry out that fear on the child. You begin to stand up from there. I don't want a situation where you will now grow up and now you will not be lazy. Blah, 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 blah. So sometimes the children already know you as a nagger and they already see you as someone that is negative. You see some children, when they begin to approach maybe 7 and 8 years, they begin to say, I already know that my mom will think I was the one that did this wrong. I already know this, I already know that. Because you are not searching earnestly. You're not searching earnestly. So I'll give you some tips on how you're going to know that your child is special. Basically, children are not the same. Yes, because of their age, there's a categorization of that makes you see them have these similar patterns. They crawl when they are to crawl, they blab when they are to talk. But you begin to identify that this child is different if you begin to see some certain traits. And from the creative perspective, as someone that's practiced for years, people come to my school and I sit down, I begin to interview the parents. I'll begin to say, how do you know that the child is supposed to be in this school? How do you know that the child needs to learn dance? How do you know the child needs to learn music? How do you know that the child needs to learn theater? The ones that brought the children for music, we said the child begins to hum, or the child is alive to music. The child is animated when they hear music. The ones that are supposed to be dancers say the child is restless, he begins to shake and jump. The ones that say they want ballet, we say the child likes to point the toes. Some will say, when I introduce them to stimulants, these stimulants make them receptive. I see them respond to it. And these are already correct answers. you know. So we start from the parent. By the time the child knows that he would have support, by the time the parent is already a support system, that whenever the child is doing anything that gives the child joy, the parent is already supporting, the child will be more expressive. So what's the first thing you need to do? Create an enabling environment for the children to express. You know, the child is raising the leg, the child is boxing, the child is running fast. Yes, you know, sometimes you have to guide them as parents not to break or clash anything, but you know, the way you do it is such, no, you don't do it here. I'll create another environment for you to do it. You know, there's a glass here, you know, there's this here. So the child feels confident to express himself more. And even without going to a trainer yet or doing anything, you can begin to look for, you know, there's an experimental stage of development in children. And please, I always teach about the capacity of children. Children have a lot of capacity, more than you understand, more than you know. Children respond very fast. Children are great emulators. They have so much space. They have so much bandwidth. You know, when it comes to language, for instance, a child has the capacity to learn 8 to 9 languages at the same time, and they'll be good in all those languages. Some people say some parents are involving children in too many things, too many activities. Yes, some are extreme, but you know, the child can do sports, the child can do dance, the child can do swimming. That's not too many activities. That's you experimenting and trying to see that the child puts his hand. They have capacity to do that. So there's an experimental stage where you begin to look for materials that will check. You check the response to the child. They are animated, they are elated. A lot of parents talk about technology, talk about maybe tab, screen time, and they are crying out, how do I reduce my child's screen time? What do I do about this? What do I do about that? It's okay for you to begin to introduce other things that don't involve screen time, you know, other things that will involve the child contributing. You want a child to contribute. You don't want to turn a child to a dump. So number 3 thing, you look for things that can engage the children, activities that can engage. That's why a lot of parents like to engage children in sports, because their input is known, is seen, you know. So with this science, you begin to know that this child is another thing that you know about a creative child, that you begin to discover. Sometimes they are very rebellious in nature, like they don't want to go with the norm. You know, don't say, yeah, I know your own is different. You know, sometimes some of us even link it to their father. Maybe the situation, maybe the father is no longer there. You are stubborn like your father, blah, blah, blah. Children, you don't need to hear that. You need to, like I said, develop a positive mindset where you put each other aside and say, okay, why is it that you don't like to go to circle time? Why is it that you don't like to go to the assembly? And the child will say, yeah, I find it very boring. You hear that a lot these days. I find it very boring. Don't begin to say, I want to find it boring when the only thing you know is screen time. Don't begin to think you understand what's happening in that child's mind. The child is saying there's more to me that has not been discovered. So you need to begin to introduce the child to more things to make sure that you find out. You know, the way you treat food, when you say, will you eat this? Sometimes children don't even know what they want to eat. They'll say, I want to eat spaghetti. You prepare spaghetti. The next thing they say they don't want, they're tired of it and all that. So don't be tired of introducing stuff to the child. And that's why I want to say to all the practitioners, all of you that are teachers, you are sports enthusiasts, you are creatives, you have a school, you have an academy, you have an institution, even if you have a playground, please be lenient enough to be able to have taser classes. You know, it's not like you're going to now begin to say, how will parents not know what they want for their children? It's okay for a child to try something and see that the child is not connected to that thing and say, okay, I'm not going to do that again because I'm not connected to it. You know, I would like to introduce some of the abbreviations I have. I'm not sure I'm going to be done in this episode with all of them. So we're going to start with the 3 Ps. When we start with the 3 Ps and we digest it, we understand it, then we'll now come to the other part of the training. So this is episode 1 and we're going to look at the 3 Ps.